Why is there no time limit on Mayor Clark's suspension?
So in regards to the sanctions and the timeline, council made a decision in order to protect the integrity of the decision-making process around council chambers and move forward into the future so that we can get business done and do work with staff. So the decision to not put a timeline on Mayor Clark's sanctions was in order to ensure that we can continue to do work. Council and staff have to work in a fashion that is collaborative. And in order for us to work in a way that is collaborative, we need to ultimately have respect around the table. And so we are going to move forward with those sanctions on the timeline of possible review. There's always potential for council to review, but yeah.
Okay, Councillor McGrogan said she can come back at the will of council. What exactly does that mean?
So if we as council decide that it's time to review based on changes in certain behavior.
What kind of behaviors?
At this point in time, I'm not going to comment.
Okay, this isn't making a lot of sense. So what kind of things does she have to do to be able to come back? I noticed she didn't even come in through the basement here. She came in through the normal door like the rest of us. Has her security clearance has been revoked? Like, is she not allowed to come in the building anymore?
I think that was a personal choice.
Okay. Now you talked about the redacted report. Now, did you know that City Manager Ann Mitchell, in a previous post in Sioux Lookout, she filed a code of conduct complaint against a council member, and the whole thing, I can find it online. Nothing is redacted. Why is this being redacted?
I unfortunately don't have the answer to that question right now. I don't know. Kelly, I'm sorry.
Okay, and I'm wondering, how is everyone going to take up the slack of mayor? Because, you know, the mayor is the only full-time position here. And so between the 8 of you, you'd have to put in an extra 5 hours a week. Who's going to be answering the phone in the mayor's office?
Well, she has a secretary for that who answers her phone. If she has a voicemail left for her, then she inevitably can respond to that voicemail and answer that phone. But we, as a team, are going to take on the slack. That's an obligation that we are here to respond to.
The Code of Conduct Bylaw 4805 was introduced. It was given first reading at the March 4th meeting. Why wasn't it given second and third reading at the March 18th meeting? Because this is the bylaw that allows the members of the public to file complaints against council members.
So the communication with staff as to when it was coming back, to me, is I'm unsure. I don't know. I think that it's probably a matter of just refining the feedback that council gave to staff, and sometimes that takes more time than just a single meeting.
When was council giving feedback to staff? Because the first reading, there was no discussion. I watched the tape.
There was no questions asked? There was no...
Nothing. It was first reading, because I think you don't have any discussion until after second reading, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
That is correct, but you're allowed to ask questions.
Well, there was no questions asked. It was asked. It was, just first reading, and it was done.
Okay. Yeah, that's obviously, it's a good question. I think sometimes the assumption is that you assume the worst when these things are happening, but we are just people doing the work, right? I think sometimes when we don't have the answer, it's assumed that it's intentional, but a lot of the time it's just the nature of, there's a lot of things on people's tables, and if it's not happening, like I said, Kelly, there's some of these questions I don't have the answer to.
Yeah.
I think your goal right now is to figure out why are public not allowed to make a complaint in regards to this process, as if that's intentional. I would say that I don't have the answer to that. I don't know for sure.
Well, I don't know if it's intentional, but it seems awfully coincidental, and people are commenting about it. And
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, one last one is not going to be an easy one. What do you say to the people who are calling Medicine Hat City Council? They're calling it an embarrassment that they overstepped with these draconian sanctions, and are now demanding that council apologizes to Mayor Clark.
I think that we have a very difficult job to do, and there is people are going to make assumptions about the why behind the decisions that we make. We can't tell the whole story all of the time. As I've alluded to with Eli, there are privacy concerns. This is a very difficult role, and yet, and like you've said, you've criticized that comment before, that it's difficult. It's difficult, and that's not something to be ashamed of. There's a lot of professional weight that comes from wanting to serve the community in a way that is effective and fair, and sometimes those things may not look great from the outside, but we have work to do, right? And if we feel that as council we feel that it's difficult to do work, and we've made a decision as a result of that, I think ultimately we're just doing our best with the situation or the cards that we've been dealt. So if the public feel a particular way, that's absolutely their right. They can have those feelings. It doesn't mean that it's right? So all I can ask is that have a balanced mind and know that you can't ever know anything about somebody else and their situation, and we're doing our best.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I got one more quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because we kind of heard about it on our way out and we noticed it ourselves. Some of the residents brought up the fact that the meeting started off without land acknowledgement and pause for a moment of silence and such, like normal councils do. So and I assume this goes back to your, it's not done out of malice. It's, we're shuffling things around and reorganizing. So if you just want to speak to that.
Yeah, my Microsoft Word document would not open. So Rondi came up and showed me where the attachment was. I double clicked and it just was doing this on my computer. So I just moved forward. I actually had that question in my head as to whether or not council meeting of the whole should have one, because not all committee meetings have a land acknowledgement at the beginning of them. So, and maybe I'm stating that incorrectly, but as far as I know, our city council meetings always do. But yeah, it was just a matter of an attachment not opening for me. I wanted to do it. I wanted to get the meeting going and make sure that we could accomplish what we needed to this evening.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.